Hi everybody, Alexander Diaz here with Corvallis Acupuncture and Functional Medicine. Today I'm talking about depression. Unfortunately, a huge amount of people are in chronic depression these days, and it's a primary cause of suicide and also of ennui, a lack of motivation, a lack of focus, particularly among the youth. And I suffered from chronic depression for many years, so I've come to understand from a healer's and from a patient's perspective some of the root causes of this unfortunate disease or disorder. And my hope with this video is to provide the listener with some of those causes and also with a sense of how to weave the smaller sense of healing depression into the greater narrative of mission and purpose in one's life, which ironically is one of the primary ways to help people get out of depression. So the video will be two phases, and here we go. So one of the primary causes of depression is ancestral or epigenetic trauma. So we found out that a lot of people whose grandparents were in the Holocaust, for example, like me, they still have fear about privation of food. And this is shown in the epigenetic evidence where the children and grandchildren of those who suffered famine have a likelihood of having diabetes. Well, it also applies to the emotional sense of safety and a sense of trust and a sense of community, that even if you yourself didn't experience these things, if your parents did, or if your grandparents or great-grandparents did, it's likely that you yourself are going to have some symptoms that may be hard to understand. They may be hard to recognize why you feel so bad, given that you had a regular suburban or urban upbringing. But indeed, we can hold the resonances of our ancestors. And so because of that, it's really important in our healing work to work with the ancestors, not only by forgiving them for their trespasses, healing the relationship with those that still are alive, but also within ourselves, understanding what it is that they suffered and what they've gifted to us as the living representatives of that lineage, so that we can move forward in the healing process. So another huge cause of depression is adverse childhood experiences. Many people have this. They are abused, traumatized, bullied, shamed, you name it. Children who don't have a safe place to live, who move too much, or who have parents that are angry and fighting or using the child against one another. Children who are kidnapped and abducted. So many of us have had adverse childhood experiences. And again, this is not limited to those extreme examples, but really just going to a public school where you're not accepted for who you are, if you're transgender, if you think otherwise, if you're a geek, whatever. These things can really impact a child very, very badly. So a host of things give a child resilience against that. For example, a good time in the womb with a happy mother means the child is more resilient to stress later in life. But this stress threshold is something that really flips for a lot of people. The funny thing about adverse childhood experiences that it's only when you get safe as an adult that you begin to unwind and release these experiences. And it ends up that you enter a trauma state way worse than is equal to what you're currently in. You may be in a safe situation with a good job, but now that you're 32, all your adverse childhood experiences come home to try to be released. And this means that people suffer sometimes like a really debilitating depression as this pain from the past comes home to roost. So in dealing with adverse childhood experiences, I mean, really good therapy is huge with a trusted therapist. Also, the women's group called The Women Within and the men's group called the Mankind Project are really wonderful nationwide support groups that are non-religious, and they help you through these experiences. And also choosing to not enter triggered situations. So like for me, being in the car was not safe. My family would fight or my dad would be drinking. So for me, really being selective in like which car I get into with which people really helps me like decrease my stress levels. Which brings us to the next cause of chronic depression, which I call synaptic habituation. And what I mean to say is that within our mind, within our brain, and within the gut-brain dynamic that forms consciousness, we have pathways, and the more frequently we go on those pathways, especially earlier in life, the more likely it is that we're going to return to that pathway, especially under a time of stress. And this feels like autopilot. Some scientists would say that the amygdala and the hindbrain becomes active, and we enter this autopilot state in order to somehow use the same survival strategy which helped us survive as a child in the current day. So for example, a woman, she's 38 now, and she had to be a very nice little girl and very sweet and cooperative in order to help her parents actually step up to meet her needs as a child, as an infant. And so she learned a long time ago that that's the best way to be. So she might click into autopilot as an adult currently in order to somehow strategize how to get out of a dangerous situation. The problem is that these strategies, they may not be very effective or acceptable in our adult life. A kid who learns to fight back, if they fight as an adult, they might be thrown in jail. So to change synaptic habituation, the analogy is like making a trail through the woods. If you don't go on that trail often with your machete, the weeds are going to grow back. But if you go down it often and clean it up, and then put down some paving stones, and then put down some nice bordering crops that keep away the invasive species, you may get yourself a beautiful road through the woods. So we seek out consciously, when we're in a non-triggered state, we seek out a synaptic habituation towards positive stress management and positive handling of our situation. And that usually feels peaceful. We're breathing well, we're relaxed, our jaw is relaxed, we're communicating from the heart, our posture is good. And then we also seek to limit or co-opt or short-circuit the synaptic habituation into the amygdala axis, meaning when your stress pathway comes up, you exert your conscious willpower, which you may cultivate through like meditation. You exert your conscious willpower to get out of that stress state. And there's many techniques, from neuro-linguistic programming to Buddhism to yogic meditation. There's a gamut of techniques. The trick is use it. When you notice yourself going into the fight or flight or going into the triggered state, breathe and get out of it. And the more frequently you do that, the more you rehabituate your synapses and your gut synaptic communication to help you so that you build the pathways for peaceful and well and adult resolution of your stresses. So another cause of depression is people with a currently bad environment and who have actual stress in their life, who are not safe at home, who are not honored or given significance in their workplace, who are judged or assaulted or insulted. There are so many current environmental stresses, which everyone has a threshold, and when you receive these stresses long enough, it's going to cause depression inside. So this is something that's very painful. And all we can say is that as healers and as patients ourselves, the patient is worthy to get out of stressful situations. They're worthy to be not harmed, to be unharmed in their partnerships and in their homes and in their families and in their work and their communities. And to really press that point and really keep on supporting people to get out of bad situations. That it'll be painful at first and uncertain at first, but to find their way to freedom. This is very important, that we really address the actual stresses. And there's some of the listeners have a very privileged life, like myself. We have food, we have a house, we're safe, nobody's raping us, nobody's hitting us. But the vast majority of people on this planet, particularly women and children and elders, they are under real, actual stress. So we have to do everything we can to help ourselves and others get into safety. Because the depression and the malaise is sure to follow. So another cause of depression in terms of our habituated mental thoughts is, I call it referential stress markers. So it's like we aren't really in trouble. We aren't really in danger, but we perceive a situation as having enough reference to the past actual danger that it puts us into the same response now that we were when we were really in trouble. And this is a pickle, because it can seem like, from the way your heart is beating and the way you're nervous and you're breathing, it can seem like you're really in a dangerous place, because the human mind evolved to remember when danger has happened and to give us the strength in fight or flight to get out of it. The problem is it's not really happening. You're not really under an actual stress. It's a perceived stress. And getting out of perceived stress is where really the Buddha Dharma is the main thing. It's to have clear seeing and to have true insight and a real revelation about what it is that you're actually experiencing. And it's also really helpful to just say it out loud. It's 2019. I am safe. I'm here. There's no gunfire. We have food in the fridge. To really let yourself know that things are well, so you can wrangle your consciousness back from the brink into a place of safety and peace. So another huge cause of depression, which I suffered with a lot, is blood sugar dysregulation and a lack of the nutrition that would go to my neurological tissues like brain and spinal cord. And so so many of us have dysregulated blood sugar. Especially, we are adrenalized, we are excited, we are pushing ourselves to accomplish and to work, to sleep less. So what that's going to do is spike our adrenaline and then draw upon the reserves of blood sugar and then crash the blood sugar. And then we make poor decisions. We go and eat something with a spike in blood sugar. And that gets us going, but then it's, of course, a simple glycemic index, and it causes us to crash again. And this cycle of crashing and spiking and crashing and spiking exhausts people. And the exhaustion manifests as depression. So the trick is to keep your blood sugar so nice and steady. And by this I mean, you go to sleep early, you wake up early and you work out, you eat, and then you keep eating nice and steady throughout the day. Complex carbohydrates, fiber-rich, nutrient-rich vegetables, and quality proteins. And this is what's going to keep you in, and fat, olive oil, beef tallow, avocado, ghee, all these good fats. That's going to help you really keep your blood sugar nice and steady. And the more you steady and regulate your blood sugar, the better chance you're going to have to get out of depression. In fact, for me, it's the number one lever. Because to do all this Buddhist studies and all this changing your dharma and changing your life circumstance, that takes time. But changing your blood sugar, you can do it today. So another factor for depression is the 5 emotions in Chinese medicine, which is really a manifestation of our organ energetics. And so you can feel so sad and so depressed simply because your spleen is not sending enough clear qi up. Your spleen may be dysfunctional. So to really combat depression, it's important to seek out the correct professionals in your acupuncture and herbal medicine and your massage. So, and also to do the correct training so that you train the different parts of your body. And what that's going to do is actually elevate the functionality of the organs and the emotional wellness that each organ's healthy functioning promotes. So you have to do that to get out of depression. You have to heal from that internal perspective. As you heal in your physique and your wellness, digestion, elimination, etc., sexual energy, you're definitely going to experience an uplifting in mentality. So another piece of it is really the whole functional medicine piece, particularly the gut microbiota and this positive feedback loop which happens between the brain and the gut. And so what I mean by this is twofold. With the gut microbiota, it means that many of us have this, of all human beings, we're all ecosystems, okay? And we live in a great ecosystem. But inside our own ecosystem, it can be thriving with tons of different species that all coexist harmoniously, or it can be a mess. And those of us like myself who had hundreds of doses of antibiotics and have antibiotics and chemicals in our water and have in the meat that we eat and the milk that we eat, we're given antibiotics. up until we got clear of that, whatever, in our late 20s, we are suffering from a very depressed and dysfunctional gut microflora. Now, how to heal that is manifold, and I'll have other videos, and there's a lot of resources on how to go about healing it. But suffice it to say, cutting out the triggering foods, for many people, wheat, soy, industrial seed oils, corn, and dairy, and sugar. If you can get rid of these major culprits, and then you give yourself complex carbohydrates like yuca and platanos, taro, sweet potato, and then you give yourself fibrous vegetables like kale, collard greens, bok choy, and then you give yourself beneficial probiotics that you take on top of that. The best company is called Seed, apparently, so I'll be getting those this month. They're in the mail. This is a good way to help clean up and benefit your gut flora. And then, of course, ayahuasca is the primary medicinal for cleansing and benefiting the gut. For those with heat diseases in the gut, it's more based on real aloe from actual aloe plants made into a smoothie. That's what soothes the gut, and then you can do the cleansing and the healing first. And then as far as the positive feedback loop, it's okay, mental stress screws up your gut bacteria and your digestion. Screwed up digestion hurts your mental functioning and capacity for positive thought. And so you got to wrangle yourself out of that by constantly promoting wellness in the digestion, constantly promoting good thought, and it feeds back in the other direction. Another huge aspect for depression is the sleep rhythm and the circadian rhythm and our access to sunlight. So we are often staying up quite late, exposing ourselves to screens of various types quite late in the day. And this co-opts our basic circadian rhythm. And when we mess with that, we mess with our sleep. And when the sleep is unwell, it's really easy to get into depression because frankly you're tired. You're not thinking straight. Your brain is not able to release into dreams and release the burden of the subconscious. So really bringing that back on track is so important. My target time to turn off all screens and all Wi-Fi is 8:30 p.m. And my target time to get in bed with my red headlamp with all the electricity off in the bedroom is 9 p.m. And then the trick is sleep the best you can. And I'm trying to get plenty of sunlight, and I'm trying to take a walk after dinner so that my body witnesses the sun going down. This helps a lot with depression. There's the second to last one is suppressed emotions that are attempting to break through. So many of us are taught, or we learn strategically, that we cannot express a certain emotion. If men express anger, it terrifies others. Our rage and our primal anger is an unacceptable thing within the social convention, so we're taught to suppress it, and that leads to depression. And this is the case with so many things: our sadness and grief, our loss, our sense of nihilism and lack of empathy and connection. All these things are squelched down, and if they don't get a chance to get out, they become mixed up, and they cause us to feel depressed. So it's really important to feel your emotions, to scream and sing and cry and laugh and breathe and get out there and move your body, get angry if you have to, but feel through your emotions, get that fire going, let it flow, and you'll learn over time to express them in a healthy way that doesn't scare people. And this is going to help you have a flow of emotion rather than a stagnation of emotion. This is crucial. And then finally, there's the main cause of depression as it's understood by modern psychiatry, which is abnormalities in your neurotransmitters. And that's what most of the depression drugs actually target, right? And it may be the case that a lot of people have abnormalities. Some of that comes from a lack of nutrition. Some of it comes from the wellness of their gut. Some of it comes from inflammation, right? So we really need to treat the root causes. But we do want to measure and then, if can, minimally supplement the neurotransmitter wellness, especially in those people who've done everything else and who that's their specific and exact problem, which is not a ton of people out of all the people that are depressed. but some you do need to treat with that. And the trick is when you're treating with a psychiatrist, it should be somebody who makes sure you're getting therapy and makes sure you're following through and makes sure you're keeping your agreements and is always down to lower your dose. Because if they're trying to increase your dose, they're just trying to make money off their script. So that's the piece in terms of the major causes of depression and the sense of how to sort of go about looking out for the patient or yourself. And then there's this greater cultural problem, which is, especially the youth, don't even believe that there's going to be a world to live in, a sustaining environment to breathe air, to have water, to have any opportunity. And that's why there's so much depression. That's why there's so much nihilism and people are so angry, because really, what are we getting? You know, what is this world? Is there really a chance to heal the world and to position ourselves where our getting our own wellness allows us to contribute to the world's wellness and back and forth in this infinity loop that keeps getting better? I don't have all the answers on that, but I do have the answer for myself, because I'm a person who needs to have a mission and who needs to have a purpose. So for that, I basically see it as a 5-step process for myself, where I start with self-care. The self-care nourishes the growth of my practice in clinical medicine. This underpins my investments and my other efforts towards financial freedom. This creates a circumstance where I can leverage my service for the wellness of the earth and for the wellness of properties and land, which then nourishes the long-term survival of my clan, my descendants, my loved ones and their descendants. And so this is how I weave myself in. And maybe it's a hack, maybe it's a trick, but for me it's really working. And the idea is that in terms of self-care, I have to be in great love of myself. I deserve to love myself. Everyone deserves to love themselves. When you're the adult child of an alcoholic, sometimes you don't feel like you're worthy because you didn't seem worthy to your parent, but you were completely worthy. And so that's where I'm building up my worthiness by yielding to myself. Massage, clean food, good experiences, loving friendships, plenty of training, all the health care that I need, everything else to nourish and bring that self-care. And then as I do that, my business thrives. I can have people starting to work for me. I can get a little bit passive income. And eventually I'll have the financial freedom to be able to purchase this property in Costa Rica and develop that property into a medicine-growing apothecary and a healing center and a permaculture community that's a model, that's a welcome place for others, that we have many, many families living there. And for me, that's the thing I can do to contribute to the wellness of the earth, providing this excellent medicine so that people can get it when they need it, providing the space that folks can come to and heal, growing that theme, getting together with more people who want to promote that theme. And that's really the best place for myself and for my loved ones, for my children, for all of our children to be, so that we have a good chance to survive on the planet. At least to have these niches, these centers, these places that are sanctuaries, foundations for the future. Things are always going to change. We don't have control of it. We won't see the end of this madness within our own lifetime. Those of you who are watching this who are adults now in 2019. It's going to be hitting full stream when we are old people, if we make it that old. But we can do something right now, we really can, to benefit the planet. So get well and get free and start on your mission. So thank you so much. Blessings to everyone. Namaste.